Corporate venturing is one of the most transformative ways for companies to innovate, break into new markets, and stay competitive. But let's be honest, it's not always smooth sailing. Today, we're talking about the top 5 challenges in corporate venturing and practical solutions to overcome them. We'll dive into real-world examples and actionable strategies you can apply. I'm not going to talk about magic or tricks or something like that. I'm just talking about real experience with clients and other companies. If you're ready to level up your understanding of corporate venturing, stick around. And don't forget, please, to like and hit that subscribe button to follow along for more. Let's get started. So challenge number 1, aligning corporate and startup cultures. Imagine this scenario for a second. A traditional corporation with structured processes, strict hierarchies, and a need for predictability teams up with a fast-moving startup that thrives on flexibility and quick iteration. What could go wrong, right? It's like asking a cruise ship to race a speedboat. It just doesn't align naturally, Cultural mismatches can lead to conflicts, misunderstanding, and ultimately failed collaboration, which is obviously not the idea. Startups may see corporations as slow and bureaucratic, while corporations may view startups as reckless and unorganized. These differences often cause frustration on both sides. And this is the thing, you cannot expect as a startup to, that make the corporation work as a startup in terms of the speed, in terms of the processes. Corporations are different. And because they're different, there is right there, it's the idea that you can create value together. Startups bring agility, maybe different innovations on technologies, and think that probably the corporation is going to take a while to invent. But on the other side, corporation has big reach, the potential to grow in different places that it might take you as a startup many years to come. That is the best way to see this relationship in terms of corporate venturing. And obviously, you cannot expect that you have 100% the same kind of mindset or cultural abilities or cultural mindset, but you need to work in an environment that this collaboration thrives. Okay, so as a corporation, you cannot take 2 months to give an answer for a certain process. Startup need to have a very fast answer. And obviously, as a startup, you cannot think that corporation is not gonna take care of different things in terms of reputation, in terms of things that could happen to them. They need to set boundaries, and they need to set, taking care of what they do, especially with their brands, especially with other things. But now that it's the approach in terms of the problem, let me give you an example. Let's look at Coca-Cola venturing an emerging brands unit. They addresses this issue by creating a dedicated team that operates separately from their core business. That is very common, by the way. This team is small, nimble, and empowered to make decisions quickly, more like a startup. At the same time, they leverage Coca-Cola's resources and expertise when needed, because they know how to navigate in the corporation, and also they have the mindset and the skill to create the bridge with the startup. That is a great scenario. So what's the solution? To solve these companies need to create a bridge team, a group dedicated to managing the relationship between the corporate and the startup world. This team should have a startup mindset, but also understand how to navigate corporate processes. That is very important. Another strategy is conducting cultural workshops at the start of the collaboration. These sessions allow both sides to align expectations, define common goals, and build mutual respect that is very relevant in a long-term relationship. In essence, treat this relationship like a partnership, not just like a transaction. And when you have this process, you can expect a certain governance, a certain time of response, and a certain way to govern this project. That is very relevant at the end of the day in terms of how to communicate the startup and the corporation, in order to have a successful corporate venture process. Challenge number 2, measuring ROI in innovation. And this is very controversial, very important, but we have to talk about this. Corporate venturing often feels like a leap of faith, especially when the benefits are immediately tangible, and this is very important and very complicated. Unlike traditional investment, where you can track quarterly financial returns, innovation ROI may take years to materialize, and it often comes in non-financial forms. For instance, a venture might provide access to new technologies, open doors to untapped markets, or even enhance the corporation's reputation as innovator. But if these intangible benefits aren't measured, it is easy for leadership to lose confidence and pull the plug. So even if the project you have is very complicated, and in the long term, and all the team knows that in relationship with this startup is going to create value, you need to obviously measure some of the advancement, some of the short-term achievements. Otherwise, leadership is not gonna know how the project is going, and this is very important. You need to show some results, long-term results. Okay, that's perfect. Everybody wants to see the big results, but you also need to have a strategy for the short-term results and middle-term results. You can put it in those words. That is a strategy that you need to set up with the startup, because they're going to have to help you to achieve those results. Let me give you an example. Intel Capital is a fantastic example of a corporate venturing arm that excels in measuring ROI. They don't just track financial returns, but also strategic objectives like how an investment positions them for future technological advancements, which is a very important ROI as well. For instance, their investment in AI startups don't always yield immediate revenue, but significantly enhance Intel's innovation capabilities. And this is what happens when you have a corporate venturing strategy. You take advantage of some investment, but it's a bet. You don't always know if this is going to help you to open a new market or to create a new business with the successful financial returns you are expecting or the board members are expecting. But this is the thing. It's either like the chicken or the egg. In innovation, you need to take that leap, and that leap could bring you, good benefits and a great result. But if you don't do nothing, obviously your competition is going to be working very hard in order to succeed. And you can do this and reduce the risk when you work with a startup and when you pilot with a startup. So what's the solution with this challenge? To measure ROI effectively, you need to establish clear objectives for each venture. Are you aiming for direct financial returns, strategic market entry, or learning new technologies? Once you define these goals, create measurable KPIs. But if you don't have the strategy, you don't have the KPIs. For example, if your goal is market expansion, track metrics like customer acquisition in new regions. If you're focused on learning, track patents, field, or new skills acquired by your team. Finally, and this is very important, communicate these metrics to leadership constantly to maintain their confidence in the program. If you don't communicate, or if you don't pay attention for high quality communication, you're going to lose value in terms of the advancement you have in your projects and your corporate venturing strategy. Challenge number 3, overcoming internal resistance. Sounds familiar? One of the most underestimated challenges in corporate venturing is getting your internal teams on board, and this can take a lot of time. Employees might fear that collaborating with startups could disrupt their jobs or devalue their contributions. Resistance can also come from leaders who are hesitant to allocate resources to projects that seem risky or unfamiliar. This internal resistance often creates roadblocks, slowing down the decision-making process and the overall progress of venturing programs more difficult. And this is when exactly the startups get bored of the process, and also the corporation. You cannot take these corporate venturing projects as a regular project. It has to be different. You cannot use, for example, the same contracts you use for like your big vendors. You have to do something different here. You need to adapt at a process that it has to be faster in order to collaborate and to work in a long-term relationship with a startup. This is where you as an internal, someone who's leading the corporate venture arm in your corporation has to move the pieces in order to have successful partnerships. Let me give you an example here. BMW's startup garage tackled this issue head on. Instead of positioning startups as competitors, they framed them as collaborators who enhance the company's existing expertise. By emphasizing how startups could complement BMW's work rather than replace it, they won employee support. And what's the solution here? To overcome resistance, transparency is key. Start by clearly communicating the purpose of corporate venturing and how it aligns with the company's broader goals. This is to make your job easier, not more difficult. Use internal newsletter, town halls, or even short video updates to share success story from your venture initiatives. Another effective strategy is involving employees in the process. Host innovation challenges where internal teams can pitch ideas alongside startups and work together. This not only builds trust, but also fosters a sense of ownership. You cannot treat this like, oh, the startups bring all the new ideas and you just have to listen internally. No, that's not going to work. This is a process that the startup has part of the solution, or maybe 60, 50, 70, 80% of the solution. But that solution, as a new technology, has to work with your company. And that is where you are the expert, okay? So to put this thing work together, this is the main art and the science of all this process of corporate venturing. And we have plenty of examples, like I just mentioned, in BMWs and in other corporations. But you cannot see this as a competitors or somebody's going to take my job or something like that. It is not. This is a huge opportunity to make your job better and maybe easier, because you're bringing a solution that could help you in terms of your metrics, in terms of the business, what you want to achieve, and in terms of many other things. Challenge number 4, ensuring long-term commitment. Corporate venturing is not a sprint, it's a marathon. But here's the problem. Many companies expect quick wins. And when those don't come, they lose our interest or funding dries up. This short-term mindset can derail even the most promising programs. And building a successful corporate venture initiative requires patience, consistent, and a willingness to ride out the inevitable ups and downs. And this is part of the innovation. The industry works like that. Let me give you an example. Google Venture is an example of a company that does this very right. They've committed to multi-year funding cycles and maintain a patient approach, understanding that returns on innovation takes time. Remember this, takes time. This long-term mindset has enabled them to build a portfolio that drives both financial and strategic benefits. And take a look at the list of the investors. Google Ventures, it's always there in their business. They are very active. So they are understood this. And also there are other companies not as famous as Google, but big corporations that has this mindset too. It's a long-term mindset in order to create constant corporate venturing programs and constant success with the relationship, with the partnerships or with the startups. The solution to ensure commitment, start by establishing a long-term vision that's clearly communicated to all stakeholders. Break this vision into smaller milestones that demonstrate progress along the way. If it's too big and too complex, nobody is going to help you. You also need buy-in from leadership at all levels. Regularly update them with data-driven reports that show how's the program going, how's the contribution is going, where are you having more challenges, where do you have room for improvement, and check with the company's goal. And even if the results are intangible at first, it is very relevant to communicate all this strategy, and this is a very practical solution to keep the teams together and to have a long-term vision with corporate venturing. And finally, challenge number 5, balancing risk and innovation. Every corporate venturing program faces this tension. Play it too safe and you won't achieve transformative innovation, take on too much risk and you jeopardize the company's resources. That's a game. Striking the right balance is crucial. And let me give you an example of this. Johnson & Johnson J-Labs program is a prime example of this balance, in my opinion. They mitigate risk by offering resources like lab space and mentorship to startups without making immediate equity investments. This approach allows them to support innovation while maintaining optionality that can invest further only if the startup proves viable. And this is very relevant. When you bring a startup working with you, there is something, and we'll talk about the future in a new video about the pilots. To establish and to create and define and implement a pilot is very relevant. That is the chance you have and the way you can prove if the innovation, if the team, if the processes you have inside the corporation works. And after that, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, depending on the pilot, you can measure, you can see if this is a good strategy or a good product to scale. Before that, you don't have to take all the risk. That's the reason the pilots are so relevant. It's a protected environment to see if this is going to work or not. Let me share the solution here. The best way to manage risk is through a diversified portfolio. Instead of putting all your eggs in one basket, which is very old, invest in ventures across different stages. Early stage startups for exploration, growth stage for scaling, and adjacent technologies for stability. Additionally, use pilot. Again, projects to test ideas before committing larger resources. If you want to know more about pilots, you can check my latest video on corporate start pilots here to understand the dynamic. This reduces risk while allowing you to explore innovative opportunities. And that is the reason a pilot is so relevant. And there you have it, the top 5 challenges in corporate venturing and how to solve them. Whether it's cultural alignment, ROI measurement, or managing risk, these strategies can set you up for success. Now it's your turn. What's the biggest challenge you face in corporate venturing? Let me know in the comments below so we can all learn about your experience too. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your network. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye. Ciao. Adiós.